This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jeff Gardner.
Welcome to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have two good neighbors coming on the show, Dave Carroll and Rob Fiorini of the Independent Mortgage Company. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
What's going on, Jeff? Nice to be here.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are coming on the show. So the audience doesn't know that I've already had the privilege of meeting you two fine gentlemen a number of times. We've been working together for a little bit. Just were at a networking event last week. So I don't want to spoil it and tell your story. You guys can do that. So let's get right into it. What is the mortgage company? What do you guys do? The independent mortgage company, I should say. What do you guys do?
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. I mean, when you're out there, you're looking for a mortgage, you even ask Google, who should I talk to about a mortgage? Typically, top answer is an independent mortgage broker or an independent mortgage agent. And that is Rob and I are. The company is called the Independent Mortgage. So we are here. We're here to support, to help, to, advise.
Yeah, essentially, our goal is not to close a transaction. Our goal is to assist you on your journey. And home ownership, as a lot of people know, can be a pretty daunting thing, especially when it's such a large financial obligation. It's very easy to get lost and scared in the process. And part of our job is helping to outline and really inform anyone who's looking to get into the market really exactly what they're getting into. And as you know, the more information you have, the more power at your fingertips to be able to actualize things, right? So realistically speaking, the main goal of Dave and I is really to provide information to help you make the best decision for your financial future when it comes to mortgages and home ownership.
Yeah. And I love that. We really do. That's the whole point of the show, is to get, I look at accurate knowledge and wisdom. You combine those two things, learning from others, being so potent, it can change your life pretty rapidly. Like, it doesn't even need all that time to incubate to make that happen. So we have guests that come on the show to provide quality information to enrich the lives of others. And I know that's what you guys do, which is so great. But I'm a mortgage newbie, so there's very little that I know about this. And I imagine a good portion of the audience, many of us have mortgages, but how much time do we spend paying attention to them? How many skills do you need to have to know them well, like you guys? I imagine it's a litany. So when you guys say an independent mortgage broker, what is that? Is that like not the big banks? Or what does that mean?
Yeah, precisely. So as independent mortgage brokers and or agents, essentially we have access to an array of lenders that provide mortgage offerings in the space. So there's upwards of about 60 lenders within Ontario that are considered like top dogs. Of those lenders, we deal primarily with about 47 of which. And all of that we are actually premium status with. So we're able to provide best market deals, amazing turnaround times. But essentially, as independent brokers, you kind of nailed it on the head. We're not really there for the bank, where we work with the banks to be able to provide offerings, but ultimately we're working with the client. We're shopping on their behalf to find them the absolute best deal. And that doesn't always necessarily mean best rate. It does mean the best overall solution for you. And that could involve, is it a term situation? Like, what are your future goals entailing that would help us design the best overall mortgage for you? I know on the market, you'll always hear people always talk about rate, but that's one of many of the factors that really go into the overall solution.
Think of it as a solution. And in the end, yes, we don't work for the big banks, but at the end of the day, we have access to a number of banks, a number of credit unions, a number of monolines. What is a monoline? Mono is singular, line is line of business. All they really do are mortgages. So you walk into your bank, you're dealing with one organization with a shelf of somewhere between 5 and 10 products. You walk into an independent mortgage agent or broker who has at our access 47 plus lenders. Well, now you're 47 lenders, each with anywhere between 1 and 10 products each. So you're opening your world up to the best possible solution for you, and not just what Big Green, Big Blue, or Big Burgundy has to offer.
And most importantly, because we're not actually working for the bank, we do work in the best interest of the client and the bank. We don't want to put anyone into jeopardy or by any stretch of the means. But to that extent, ultimately, we're not worrying about the profit of the lender. We're not worrying about how much money they're going to be able to make. We're worried about how much money we're able to save our clients.
Yeah, so it's not a specific product that you guys have the largest margins on that is in your interest that you're pushing onto somebody. And this is really the benefit. This is what I love so much about small and medium businesses is the focus on the client's prosperity. Is you guys have the tools. I mean, when you just said that, Dave, 47 lenders and 1 to 10 products, my head just immediately goes to hundreds of products and almost like a minefield to get through that I'm just not going to do. I'm just not going to learn those skills. I think it's hard to get good at one thing. To try to get good at many, I think you're setting yourself up for failure. So that's why I go to the experts, the ones who I believe, and sometimes I've been wrong, but I think I'm getting more right in this through experience, care for my goals. We go to you guys to get our best solution, as you said, and rate is just one factor in it. We're the same way in a business. It's not all about price. It's really what is your situation and what is the best thing for your situation rather than this cookie cutter one size fits all thing. So I love that you guys do that. And I appreciate you kind of enlightening me on that because there's just so much I don't know. And I talk to entrepreneurs and mortgage agents a lot. So what does the audience not know? And I know the mortgage, like you said, Rob, is a huge factor in our lives. It's one of the big things for us, kind of like taxes, something we don't want to talk about, something we don't want to do. But when we are empowered with accurate information can make a total change to our lives. So I love that. And we'll be diving a bit more into that. Something that I want to know about you boys is why did you get into this? Why be entrepreneurs? Why be mortgage agents? What's that all about? What's the story behind it?
So do you want me to start or you want to go for it first?
Well, I don't know. Who's better? You want to rock, paper, scissors?
Yeah, let's go.
Oh,
yes. See, we're always on the same page. Nobody's seeing what's going on here, but okay.
Oh, come on. Did you just tie 3 times in a row?
Three times in a row. But all right, we'll let you go.
Okay.
First.
So why did I get into this? I've got a varied history. I have been a bartender. I've been a computer programmer. I've been working towards my accounting designation. I worked for a financial institution. In all those fields, I always found numbers and people are where I thrive and was finding the right balance between numbers and people. My last role as an employee was a senior small business advisor with a local credit union. And there I realized, the numbers and the people, they work. I like helping people, whether it's business owners or individuals, understand their financial situation a little bit better. I had the opportunity to get into a mortgage role as an agent. And at the time of my life that I chose to do it, I set myself up in such a way that I could do it without feeling like I had to chase commissions, like I had to chase income, like I had to ever make a decision to feed my family. I never wanted that to be what motivated me. I wanted the true assistance or the guidance or the discovering of the solution for my client to be what drove me. So it took me many years to land in this role. It took a lot of soul searching and a lot of support from, my family and my significant other. Her name's Catherine, by the way, not just making her up. It took a lot for me to get there because I had to feel like I was in the right place in my life with the right amount of experience, diverse or otherwise, to provide that kind of guidance and info and education and support. And the foundation of it all stems back to my life growing up in that I won't say we were hard done by. I would say we didn't have the easiest path. My dad utilized his home, not as a bank account per se, but he refinanced multiple times. And I'm sure at some point he's going to see this, and I don't want him to ever be embarrassed. But the reality is part of that inspired me in that you know, your house isn't a bank account,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your house is your home. It's the roof. It's where your heart lives for a number of years. And for me, I wanted to help people find that, maintain that, update that, grow beyond that without feeling the stress of, you know, increasing debt loads year over year because of cash flow, because of employment, because of health, because of anything else. Let's set people up for success from the get-go and find that proper solution. So a very long chain of events led me to where I am. I'm very fortunate early in my career as a mortgage agent. Rob and I crossed paths. We had very similar like mantras and ideologies about the industry. And I'll let him get into how he landed here.
Yeah. So for myself, like I've always been a grinder. Again, I was the type of person, I worked full time throughout school. So from high school until end of university, I was always working full time. During the summer, pull in extra hours. And I was working for no frills, making probably like $8.75 an hour or whatever it was. And university rolled around. I was doing my pre-med designations and such. And I had an aunt reach out to me who was like, hey, I have a summer student role at the bank that I work for. Are you interested? And I was like, I don't know, like what's the deal? So she's like, well, it's a mortgage company and they're looking for someone in the originations department to kind of just help out during the summer. It pays you $14 an hour. So for me, I was like, hey, that's almost double my pay. So I figured I would take the leap, and I went in there, and I enjoyed myself for the most part, like the office space, getting used to things, seeing how that kind of portion of things operated. But really what kind of sealed the deal for me was I at one point in time, I thought I was being like punked or something, where one of the employees at the bank was like, hey, Rob, so we need you to do this interview with this client. You have to go over the terms of their loan and all that stuff and just make sure that they're in agreement. So I'm going through the details and I see this interest rate, like massive interest rate, massive lender fee, massive payment, all these things. And I'm like, oh God, these people are making me call this person because nobody else wants to make this call. Like, what am I going to do? And I'm literally panicking. And I'm like, okay, just make the call. It is what it is. And I picked up the phone, and pretty much the first thing that came out of this person's mouth once I've indicated where I was calling from was, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to start my life over again. And that was something that kind of triggered in my brain, where, again, coming from a family that was always of the mindset of being like, pay off your mortgage, low interest rate, that's the only thing to worry about, it made me really be like, well, if this person's happy with this situation, there must be more to this than what appears on the surface. And from there, I kept kind of driving and grinding. And I'm the type of person where I put my head to something, I definitely learn pretty quick. And coming from a numbers background, I was able to kind of build myself up into the space. I ended up kind of dropping out of my school path to pursue this because I did see a means of being able to help people. And then within a relatively short time frame of being full-time with that bank, I actually got poached into a brokerage where I was managing a team of around 100 agents. And Wow. It was pretty early on in my career, and I was the one doing all the back end, but it forced me to learn the industry pretty much inside and out. I'm not going to lie, I got burnt out beyond belief because of just the number of transactions that I was doing. So I decided to go back to the bank for a little bit. And in there, I held relatively strong roles in terms of underwriting, credit adjudication, back-end audits. So I learned pretty much the entire path of mortgages, from the originations to funding to back-end audits, dealing with the regulator. Like, no, I inherently know the full process. And then I was someone who received limits and was able to sign off on my own deals. So I learned the space very well and was dealing only with other brokers and agents. And unfortunately, I saw a very large gap in the service that was being provided by said agents. It seemed like a lot of them were just there more or less in a sales role and didn't really know how to get the deal done. And if you don't know how to get the deal done, how could you possibly be putting your client into the right solution? Right. So for me, it made me really see that there was a problem that needed to be fixed in this industry. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of agents and brokers out there that do have that fiduciary sense and will put their best foot forward. But by the same token, there are a lot out there that are just trying to get a deal done. And that was the thing where, again, we resonate so well, is that, honestly speaking, we don't care if we particularly close your deal. If we've chatted and we point you into the right direction to get the best solution for you, and we've provided that sense of guidance, and you would be able to come back to us and chat with us again and for the next deal or whatever, or just continue to lean on us for that guidance, that's what we're here for. That's where our true passion lays, is the happiness we get from seeing someone get their best situation. And more often than not, those people that you're like, hey, look, your current situation would allow you for you to do this. I can't particularly help you with this, but here's what you need to say to X, Y, and Z to make this happen. And then that's someone who, again, will be your champion moving forward. They'll be the person screaming your names. And that's where, for us, we know as long as we do right by you, right will come back to us.
You should get up on a stage, Rob. Just ask him to tell his story. He'll give you a good one. So both of you went through your own kind of gauntlet, different walks of life, but both found yourself in this position to where you are right now through a desire to help others, is what I heard from all that. And I was going to ask you, what is it about helping people that makes you guys do what you do, to the point of saying it doesn't even matter if we get the deal as long as we helped you in some way? Whereas, a huge portion of us are in business for the dollar, where that's their priority, to make the buck. I think there's a smaller portion of us that are not. So what do you think it is that makes you happy from helping somebody? Like, what is it about that? They're another human. They're a stranger. In many cases, they have no impact on your life, you could argue. And you guys have both found yourself in this position, going through your own version of a pretty significant gauntlet for both of you. What is it that's so fulfilling about helping somebody else?
Speaking for myself, I'm a relatively empathetic person. I always try and put myself in the shoes of who I'm dealing with. And again, we all deal with anxiety. We all deal with stress. A lot of people to different extents. And when you know that you've alleviated that feeling of anxiety for someone else, and you know how relieving that is from your own personal perspective when that happens, that's my greatest reward, is knowing that I've given someone peace of mind. For me, honestly, it makes me feel in control of things that I'm not, right? Like it's a nice feeling.
Yeah. For me, it can be bridging that gap between the how and the why. I mean, if you look at financial literacy as a whole, we hear about it all the time. And ultimately, I've seen the curriculum. I know where the gaps are. I've even volunteered and gone into local high schools and done, sessions on, this is what the real world looks like. Good for the textbook. Yes, it can teach you certain things and certain formulas and certain things about the financial world. But the reality is there's big gaps. And our parents aren't talking about it. Our grandparents aren't talking about it. For generations, it was taboo to speak about this stuff at the dinner table. So I want to bridge that gap. How did you get the mortgage? Well, you gave a bunch of documents, right? Why? Why did you get it? Why were you approved? Why aren't you getting approved? Why won't they increase the limit on your credit card or your Visa? Sorry, your credit card or your line of credit. Why can't you get approved for a larger mortgage? Let's look at the numbers and let's educate. Let's bring it full circle. Understand that, there's rules in place. There's a stress test. There's all these bad words out there. There's a why behind it all. And if we can answer that for our clients and help them with their journey, they're not going to forget us. Right?
Damn.
It's not transactional. It's a relationship.
Well said. It's not transactional. It's a relationship. That one's a keeper. You guys are great. I could listen to you guys all day, but I want to get into myths and misconceptions. Probably many of them I haven't even thought of, as again, the world of mortgages is a very new playground for me. So we've been talking about this the whole time, whether it's you or whether it's you guys or myself. Information changes lives, negatively or positively. If I have something in my head, this color is blue in front of me and I believe it's red, I'm now making decisions that are turning into a belief, because I'm saying this to myself more and more and more. It's gone from a thought to a belief, and now it can even become part of my identity, something I'm willing to fight for when I've had, the seeds were planted from inaccurate information. So I've gone down this complete path based on inaccurate information. So we like to really dig into the myths and misconceptions to put out some accurate information out there to enrich people's lives. So what do you guys think of when you hear those words, myths or misconceptions about your industry that people have in their head right now that they're rooted in, that is incorrect?
How much is it going to cost to use your services?
So let's peel back the layer on that. What does that mean?
So
why is that a misconception or a myth?
More often than not, when you're providing a service outside of a typical norm where someone feels like, I can walk into the branch and do this myself, you're probably doing the same thing. So if the bank's not paying me, how are you getting paid? And it's like, well, the bank's not paying you as a client because they're paying whoever specialist is there or financial advisor or whatever behind the scenes to close that transaction with you. So just like the bank employee gets compensated for closing a deal, we get compensated from closing a deal from the bank. And to that extent, we can charge separate broker fees. And there are situations where it's warranted because, again, our pay scale is dependent on the term, the size of the mortgage, the type of product they're taking, which side of the business they're under. There's a bunch of different layers there. And like we said, again, we're not transactional people. So that's why Dave threw up the big goose egg, because more often than not, we do try to avoid tagging on those fees whenever we can avoid it, because again, we realize how large of a cost this is to the standard consumer. So why should we dip more into your pocket than need be? Like, even if I were to charge a fee, to be honest with you, I'm not going to get rich off of that one transaction. For me, my best fee, and I know Dave feels the same way, is for you to speak my name, to send that referral out to another person, because I'm happy to put my mouth where my business is and do what I need to do, because I know I'm always going to provide the best situation for you. Dave is going to always provide the best situation for you. We're always going to let you know how to accomplish your best solution. And then people get caught up in that. And it's like, well, why would you do all this for nothing? Well, it isn't for nothing. We are getting a compensation. But if I know that you're going to be dealing with me again in the future, it's more than just that one transaction. It's our relationship. And then again, if you can get us more clients, then that's something further that we're happy to provide a proper, happy guiding service, knowing that, hey, we may not get rich off of this, or we may not fully get compensated off of this, or whatever it may be, but down the line, we'll be okay because we're doing right by other people. So that's one of the biggest issues there. And then I think another one would be that all we deal in is private mortgages. That's one that I've heard across the board, that brokers are sharks. So they're just going to come in and give you whatever deal they need to give to make themselves money.
There's a misconception out there that, brokers are only brokering, private relationships, private mortgages, expensive services. I'll tell you right now, we've gotten rates with the big bank partners of ours that are better than what you can walk into the branch and get. Why? It's relationship based. Just as our relationship with our clients is huge, our brokerage is one of the largest in the country and does have preferential relationships with a number of our lenders, so that we do have great turnaround times. We do have great rate options. We do have great solutions for everyone.
And for this, I guess, without trying to sound cocky or anything of that nature, Dave and I both do relatively high volumes of business. And that is another incentive to the banks, because you got to think of it from the same perspective of businesses. If we're people who do high volumes, those banks are going to want us to send our business to them so that they can make more money. So in doing so, they're going to give us better offers to make us come to them rather than going to their competitor. Yep. And that's another big benefit of the broker space, is that, we basically throw your deal up on the chopping block and allow for a purchase bid almost, right? It's like, well, who's going to give us the best deal? Doesn't really work like that. We have to go and navigate on the back end. I wish it was like, hey, here's the deal. Everybody bid and give us your best pricing.
We get penalized for that, so we can't just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what's going to fit.
But to that extent, like, we're able to compare products across so many different lenders so that, again, you're making that best decision. We're opening the door to show you what solutions are available, what we believe are the best options for your situation. But those aren't the only options. If you want to look at other options or whatever for something for you personally, we're happy to go down that route and really help select what makes the most sense for you. We lead the horse to water. We don't force it to drink.
And 2 other really quick myths or misconceptions. Misconception number 1, rates everything. It ain't. When you take a look at the whole package, look at your prepayment privileges, your penalties, portability, transferability, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's more than just rate. Think about it. You get what you pay for. If you're going for the absolute most rock bottom rate, I've had situations where people pushed that. That's all they wanted. And it was stress right up until closing day. And in hindsight, they came back to me and said, Dave, man, I wish I took that 0.05 higher to go with one of the more reputable lenders so that I wasn't stressed right until closing day, worried if I'm going to get the keys. So rate isn't everything. That's another big misconception. Another one is, don't hit my credit. You're going to destroy my credit rating. Let's be honest. Your credit rating is more than just how often somebody checks it. How often somebody checks it maybe accounts for 10% or less of the overall scoring mechanic of your credit bureau. Somebody with a healthy credit history can probably get your credit dinged 2, 3, 4, 6 times a year without it having much of a negative impact. So don't fear having your Equifax or TransUnion checked. It's not as big a deal as it's been made out to be. The bigger deal is carrying big balances. Take that one to heart. Everybody, anybody, try never to carry more than 70% of the limit of your credit cards or lines of credit. That's going to hurt you far more than just getting your credit hit. That late payment.
So that's yeah, I remember the first time we spoke. That was, and I grew up in a banker's house. I'm sure she said it. She set me up, on a easier path financially than I would have been had I not had mom. But that's something that I wasn't aware when I sat down with you. I said, if it's like whatever, let's say a $10,000 limit, even if there's a $6,000 or $7,000 on there, there seems like there's still a good limit on there. And that's when you told me that. And ever since then, that one question led to that one quick answer, 90 seconds. I've never done that since, if I could. And in most cases, I've been able to keep it much, much lower, if not bottomed out. And that's the power of information. You guys are great. Let's get to the personal side of things. So we have entrepreneurs on here, right? You guys are entrepreneurs. Most of us, bleed for our businesses. They're a great deal of fun. Some of us, our business is our purpose in life. Some of us, like myself, I use my business is the avenue to live out my purpose or live out my life. I look at it as life is the game that I'm playing, and I use business to increase the quality of my life. But there is always fun to be had outside of business. So what does Dave and Rob get up to when not helping people with their mortgages and their financial situations?
So Dave and Rob are both dads of young children. So
there's the fun.
Yeah. So mine are 4 and 2. And then Dave is 6 and almost 1.
Yeah, he'll be 1 before this podcast goes live.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
So we have a lot of family time and outings that we try and make the most of so that we can see those beautiful smiles. We both have our amazing wives that, help us out a lot in terms of, again, we work very long hours. We're available for the banks. We're available for the clients. It's very sporadic in our industry. There's not much predictability. So it's just a matter of us finding time when we can make the time. And Again, I'm a big sports guy, so I try and watch, hockey whenever I can, UFC events whenever they come up. I try and get into those. Like I used to box, but just that's something that unfortunately I've lost in the last maybe 8 years or so. I'm really hoping to gain that back when my kids are a little bit older and everything. It's a great outlet for reducing stress and everything to that extent. But that's pretty much me right now, is watching sports when I can, playing the odd mobile game here or there, and spending time with my family.
I love it. How about you, Dave?
Time with my kids, absolutely. And my little guy loves baseball, so I'm there with him for that. He and I got into snowboarding this year.
You got into snowboarding this year?
Well, sorry, he did. I've been snowboarding for 20 years, so it would have been nice if we had a real winter. That would have been great.
Yeah, it would have been.
Outside of that, I mean, anything I can do to just try and detach. I know Rob said, we're kind of on 24/7. Detaching is nice. Detaching with family, detaching with friends, whether it's going to a local or bigger sporting event or a concert, or, coaching my kid in one sport or another, teaching them to board. I sit on a board of directors. That brings me a lot of joy, and I do find it fun. It's not work for me. Anything and everything. I'm a little bit of a closet nerd, so take that as you will. I find ways to occupy my time.
I'm not going to take that as I will. Dave, what is a closet nerd?
Okay, so
you can't say that. Plant that seed and expect me not to
have a bit of a techie background. So with the computer programming, I've got some pretty decent setups at home. So got a 3D printer, so my kid and I will play around with that. My little guy's into his PlayStation, or our PlayStation, his Nintendo Switch. He's doing a lot of Minecraft, so I'm encouraging him with that, with the building and the learning. I don't fear games. I think they're a good outlet for certain things. And at the end of the day, both he and I are into it. So why the heck not?
If you can learn, it's like anything, right? There's positives, a lot of positives to social media, but because it's so powerful, there can be some significant negatives to it. I've been in the gym my whole life. I've seen people use the gym almost like an addiction. They literally just stay there all the time. Their whole life revolves around it, and the rest of their life falls apart. So any positive can be turned into a negative. But if you can gamify learning, if you can make learning fun, for me, one of my main things is learning. The books behind me, most of the things that I do outside of here is in some way trying to learn some skill that can increase the quality of my life. And I try to gamify everything, whether it's competitions with my teams or video games or even reading for a certain amount of time. That kind of gamifies it for me when I'm running on the street, light post to light post. Just certain ways to measure and certain way to gamify it a little bit allows the kind of arduous and the boring to be more entertaining. If I can entertain myself and learn, that's a win. So I love that games are a part of your life, man.
Well, and the fact that my 6-year-old is reading, not fluently, but far ahead of what I would have anticipated, it's because when he is playing something, he's got subtitles turned on, right? When we are driving around and he is doing karaoke, he is reading the song lyrics on a screen, singing along. I told him from an early point, like, if you're going to play something, I want those subtitles on. I want the volume down. I want you reading. I want you to try and figure this out. He's done a phenomenal job.
What a cool tip.
You can learn reading that way. I'm fortunate. I'm blessed.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I don't know how many years ago, but I started getting in. I don't even say I should start. I think a number of our big streaming platforms have more foreign things to watch, movies, documentaries, etc. So you're kind of forced to put the subtitles on. And then I learned that for me, reading a book and listening to it in my ears at the same time, stimulating two senses, I get more engrossed into it. I get more immersed into that experience. So then that led to me watching shows with subtitles, and it absolutely has impacted my reading ability, no question. So I love that you're doing that with your 6-year-old, man. That's super cool. And you're both dads, giving so much to the community and doing the dad thing. Very cool.
That's it.
So hard things. We like to talk about hard things on this show. They're a big part of my life. I have most of my reminders for life tattooed on the arms so that they're there for me, especially when I'm going through the shit, and do hard things is my number 4. So why do we like to talk about hard things? I think if you go onto social media, you're going to find a lot of polished up lives, as we will say, edited, photoshopped, perfect wife, perfect husband, perfect body, cars, vacations, all of that. And for the average person, we go there looking for some sense of comfort or some sense of connection. And sometimes we walk away feeling like, this is not my life at all. I can't meet these standards. And now I feel worse. Or I go to the news and it's salacious and it's war and it's market crashes and it's recessions and just the negative. So we have these two sides of the pendulum that we're judging against our own lives, which is problematic, I think. And I think a lot of us are afraid to share where we've struggled, or depending on how you define failure, failed. We maybe get embarrassed. Maybe there's some shame there. Maybe there's some fear of other people's judgment. And I think that is incorrect. I think we're leaving a lot of value on the table by not kind of wearing our scars with pride. For me, it absolutely seems true that for me to grow, I need to be challenged. If I was taking the same grade 1 math test now, I would be the same as I was when I took that test the first time. There would be no additional growth. So I have to be tested to see where I'm at to grow. And if I can't answer this question right now, then now I'm given the opportunity to go find the answer, become more skillful, and grow. So for me, growth requires challenge or hard times. So we try to spotlight it. We try to make it not something to be ashamed of, not something to be embarrassed of. As the best lives, the people that I follow the most, the ones that inspire me the most, have typically had the hardest lives and found meaning through that suffering and wear it as a badge of honor. So we like to ask our guests on the show if there's any trials and tribulations that you're comfortable with sharing that you knew in the moment sucked. Right? I think human beings aren't designed to constantly be in states of discomfort. That's why our body lets us know that this does not feel good. I think we're designed a little bit more for conservation and comfort. So if you can share with us something that sucked in the moment, but looking back on it, you're confident that this was an integral ingredient that you wouldn't remove, that now has led you to enjoying your life the way you do. Anything come to mind?
Yeah. So for myself, like I was mentioning a little bit earlier, when I did take on that role relatively early on in my career, where I was managing quite the number of agents and was doing all the back end processing myself. And because I was newer to the industry, it wasn't necessarily being compensated to the extent that I feel like I should have, at least now looking back. Right. And you know, future sight's always a beautiful thing. But when it comes down to it, when I was working that role, I grew very sick. The stress, the anxiety of the role, I ended up, I don't know if I developed it then or it was something that was kind of just in me and came out, but I developed Crohn's. And I had gotten to a point where I was extremely sick. I was hospitalized a few times. And then I got to a point where I was almost like 220 pounds and I was just not living a good life. Like I was unhappy all the time. Like I wasn't doing things for me or the right reason. Like I was just getting things done for people. And to that extent, I really lost sight of myself and what I was trying to do, who I was. That caused issues, like even with myself and my wife from like a personal perspective, because, you know, if you can't love yourself, can't love other people. And when it came to that, I definitely hit a low point. And at that point, I decided, I was like, okay, well, I can't keep going down this path. I need to make a change for the things that mean the most to me in my life. And that's why I went back to the bank space, because at that point, it was one of those things where I had the background. I knew I could get it done, and it would have been a much easier motion for me. And that was the case. I was able to get my head back on track. I was able to refine my passion for the industry. I dropped almost 50 pounds, got myself back into a proper mindset and everything, which my health was getting better and better. And then it came to like what you were saying, where now I wasn't being challenged. I wasn't really pushing myself to the extent of what I was doing. I was getting things done. I was surpassing numbers and units and everything. And how are you doing it? it was just in comparison what I was doing before, this was nothing, right? So for me, it was one of those things where, again, on top of learning all of these additional things, being better at what I was doing, I was just trying to figure out ways that I could make this work to my advantage rather than put myself back into that situation where I could go back into that rotting state, for the lack of better words. And with that kind of resulted in me taking the leap that I did, and then going to the independent side, or back to the broker space. I was like, okay, well, I want to do this now for me. I don't want to be behind the scenes for someone else. And then that way I get all the benefits that I was looking for. I get to actually interact with these people and get the sense of reward in terms of doing things. And then again, obviously compensation goes a long way, but when it goes into everything, for me, it was just, now I was doing what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it for me. And that is where everything kind of just went on the up and up. And here we are.
Awesome, man.
Oh boy, my turn. Where do I start?
Should I get the rum or?
Yeah.
Take a swig, man.
So my history is a little bit funky in the sense that, I mean, we'll forget anything before the age of 17, but 4 days after getting my G2, I was in a pretty bad car accident, hit my head pretty bad on the door frame, had memory issues for a number of years. I also had a total kind of flip on, whether or not I was very left brain versus right brain. It is what it is. We're good now. I worked in the bar and service industry for a number of years trying to, rehabilitate my memory. I went from having to write everything down to being able to memorize, orders for a full table of 10, 12, 20 people. So I found a way to make that work for me. A year after the accident, my parents split. My mom moved to the US and left me at, call it 18 with a 16-year-old and 10-year-old brother whom, I kind of had to help. Fast forward to 21, my house burnt down.
Shit.
Yep. Yeah, that's a word for it. But what you learn there is, how insurance works and how much your stuff is actually worth.
Yeah.
Is it stuff or is it memories? Is it stuff or is it relationships? And I've become far less attached to or fixated on stuff because of that. Like I said before, worked in the hospitality industry for a number of years. Don't really have a whole lot to show for that other than feeling far more comfortable talking to people, far more comfortable putting myself out in front of anyone.
That's a hell of a skill to have, though.
When you go from, look at me in high school, too scared to ever do any kind of public speaking, couldn't even talk to a girl. I was nervous. I was shy. I was quiet, had big red hair, very bad acne, Coke bottle glasses. I was 6'2" walking into high school, but maybe 110, 120 pounds. I was a skeleton with skin painted on. It was rough.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
Okay, you're visualizing, right? And then my wife and I, we got married in 2012. It is now 2024, and it took us those 12 years to get our 6-year-old and our 1-year-old here, because we've had a number of really ugly situations in terms of miscarriage and fertility, and it's been hard. But in the end, what I've taken from it all is, I very much subscribe to more of a silver linings kind of philosophy where, bad shit happens. Find the positive in it. Find what can make you stronger. Find what can help you grow. Okay. So that's lesson 1. And lesson 2 is you're born into one family, you grow into another. And the family I've grown into is a beautiful thing. We've got lovely neighbors, lovely family friends. My kids have uncles that are not blood related, aunts that are not blood related. Yeah. Heck, we've taken a section of our fence down with our next door neighbor because the kids are back and forth so often between the 2 yards. The family you grow into is so very powerful. And that's not saying the family you're born into isn't, but, keep a close circle around you. and be comfortable opening that circle to more, because it's worth it.
Phew. Great insight, boys. I mean, living, I'm going to summarize it. Some takeaways from you first, Rob. I mean, if I butcher it, forgive me, but it seemed like you were living a life that was in line, out of line for you, in line for others.
Yeah.
And you needed to switch that out of necessity in some ways. Health, I mean, that's one of my foundations. If whatever I'm doing in life is chipping away at my health, I don't do it. So through necessity or lack of purpose or whatever it is, you found your way finding value in living on your terms, which I think is what a lot of us entrepreneurs decide to do, that we're given this one life stamped with an end date from day one. Don't know when that end date's coming. So might as well make hay the way we want to while we can. And then Dave, the ups and downs and again, the physical ramifications of the life you've lived. Same with Rob, now leading you to appreciate, that sense of connection and relationships, the family that you didn't choose, the family that you did choose or grew into, as you said, all the value there. And then taking all those skills you guys developed and pouring it into helping other people. This is why we talk about hard things on this show, because it almost always relates back into that. I kind of, whatever guest version had to go through my version of hell, came out the other side, more skillful, more valuable, more content, more grateful. And now I'm taking those skills because my cup's full and pouring it out to other people. It's a great thing. It's just a beautiful thing.
And the old adage just always remains true. Like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? It's all about how your mindset gets put towards a situation. You can let a bad thing stop you, or you can let it propel you, right? Like, you don't want to fall back into the same bad habits. You don't want to feel those same bad things again. So you're going to do everything in your power to go the other way. And I find that people who have gone through those struggles, more so than not, try to go out of their ways to help other people not feel those things as well. And that's why I truly believe in what Dave and I bring to the table. And that's always caring about you as the client and putting you first over anyone else. And like he said, we've both have been blessed enough to have been in a position that we're in today where, we don't have to force a transaction to be able to feed our family. We don't have to sell a deal that we don't believe in just because we need that paycheck. And because of that, we're able on a daily basis to do what we set out for, help.
Yeah. So all of the burdens we could carry around and let weigh us down, we've dropped them and made them part of our foundation. We stand on them proudly, and we're bigger and better because of it. And we hope to do the same for our clients.
Yeah.
Boom. Mic drop. Well said, gentlemen. That's typically my favorite or second favorite part of the show. My favorite part, depending on how you guys answer, is coming up soon. So for our last couple of questions, what is one thing? I think you guys have already alluded to a number of them. So if you want to use the same ones you've mentioned before, feel free. If there's anything new, please add it. What is one thing you wish the audience knew about the independent mortgage company, you guys in particular?
Second opinions are free. I can't tell you how often somebody calls me with a renewal in their hand and says, Dave, I think this rate's ugly. I think, Big Blue or Big Green is being a shyster, and they're charging me out the wazoo for a renewal. And I take them through it, and I can talk them through it. And I'll tell you, very often right now, I can say, yeah, great, I can save you 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4%. But based on the size of your transaction, the cost to change outweighs the savings in interest or the savings in cash flow. So is it actually worth it? Or should you stick with Big Green or Big Red or whomever? Because the reality is, again, not chasing the transaction. We're providing the advice. And I'll tell you, it was great. I had one of those conversations, hung up the phone. 5 minutes later, I got a ding from Google saying, you just got a 5-star review. Didn't do a transaction, but I gave this person the time of day, which they don't find elsewhere.
And sometimes that reassurance, just knowing that hey, the deal that I already have is the best on the market. It just helps someone sleep at night. And again, we're here to help. It's a quick conversation. If you come in and you're forthright with us and you say, hey, I'm already working with another broker, XYZ, I will firstly say we're not here to step on any other broker or agent's toes. Like, again, if you have a working relationship with someone, we do believe in you trying to maintain that working relationship. If there's something more that you feel like your services aren't being met to the extent you were hoping to, or you feel like they don't have your best interest in mind, that is a different story. But even just having that quick conversation, hey, I'm working with this broker. This is the deal that he was able to get me. What does it look like to you? Does that make sense? Do you have a better deal? If we have a better deal, again, we can explain it to them and we can let them know of the options that are on the table. But we're going to also let them know if the current deal that they have is going to be something worthwhile or better than options that we have. We're always going to be honest because, again, we're here to provide the best solution. So if that is the best solution,
take it and run.
Exactly. But we also take it a step further because, again, in being in the industry for as long as I have been, like, for me, just purely working in mortgages for the last 12 years, which I know is hard to realize when I look like I'm 12 myself. But when it comes down to everything, like, I've seen where those shortcomings lie, and not every question that should be asked is being asked. And especially when it comes to affordability and mortgages and everything of that nature, there are certain costs of life that we take on, but don't necessarily have to be added into your mortgage application. So the standard agent or broker, more often than not, is going to be like, well, you qualify for this, so, like, let's make it work. But if that's going to jeopardize your affordability, and now you're going to be house poor just because you wanted to have the ability to say you own a house, you're going backwards. You're not helping anybody. And that's not what we got into this for. We're not in this to watch someone buy a house and then get foreclosed on and lose everything that they put into it. Like, we want to see you find success. We want to see you make the mortgage that you've worked so hard for work for you.
Mm-hmm. I love it, gentlemen. I have this Post-it note. I put most of the Post-it notes that were most valuable to me on my arm, but I have a couple that are not on the next arm quite yet. And it's goodwill compounds faster than revenue. And that's one of my big things for me, is that even if it's for the money, the avenue through helping people for the sake of helping people will probably make you more profitable. Or if it's for fulfillment, that's going to be the win too, rather than making it transactional. So whichever way you're doing it, if you're doing it selfishly, like selflessly being selfish, fine. You're still helping people. You're going to have a great business. Most likely the business that provides the most value wins. And in some cases, free advice is extremely valuable. And that can be like, you just helped me just simply because I asked. You didn't charge me for it. You took time to hear me out. Yeah. If mortgages come up or XYZ comes up, I'm going to let people know about that because there's people in my life I want to help too. So I'm so grateful that you guys make that your foundation, essentially putting out as much goodwill as you can, which is just fantastic. Which leads me into my secret question. I know you guys looked at the questionnaire. I always leave this one out, but I mean, you guys have alluded to it so many times already. You guys were talking about being blessed a minute ago. I've certainly been blessed with great mentors in my life. It's one of the things that I cherish above all others. I think behind every excellent person is an excellent teacher. And I have been very lucky to come across some great mentors, many of them still being in my life. In my early 20s, was living a life that was not in line with much. And I bumped up against some good mentors. One of them, she encouraged me to think of my impact. She encouraged me to be more intentional about my life. Consider your impact up to this moment, is what she told me at that time. Like, reflect on your life. Is it going the way you wanted to? Did you even decide what kind of life you wanted to, or are you just kind of winging it? Think about your impact for the day, because you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. There is no time that's guaranteed for you. That's something that's given to you. It's hard to earn time, and we can't get more of it. So think about your impact for the day. And then for however long you are here, what would you like your impact to be going forward? So simply, I'm a human. I'll be here for a certain amount of time. what do I want my impact to be? So I think about that quite a bit. It's number 1, 2, and 3 on my list of 15. What am I doing with my time? Therefore, what is my impact going to be? So we like to ask the guests, what do you want your impact to be? I say the world. Sometimes that's too big for people, although the world is wherever you are, I think. Whether family, community, business, I would argue they're all one and the same. But what do you guys want your impact to be?
As positive as it can be. For me, the biggest impact that I want to make is that financial literacy becomes commonplace. It's not something that's the shadows of, keep the rich rich, the poor poor. We want to open the doors to show people how to take control of your situation. Everybody can find success. You just need to be provided the tools to do so and be taught how to use those tools. We can do that.
Awesome. Dave?
Same. For me, it is that financial literacy component. It's, you can only make decisions based on the knowledge you have. And with the gap in knowledge out there right now, we need more people filling that gap. We need more just understanding of commonplace things. Like one of my biggest pet peeves when I'm talking to a high school student or in one of those classes talking about interest is they can recite off until they're blue in the face the rule of 72, right? If you don't know what the rule of 72 is, it's essentially at 10% interest, your money doubles every 7 years. Or at 7% interest, your money can double every 10 years. They talk about it only typically, in my opinion and in my experience, from the saving perspective. But nobody flips it on its head and say, your credit card at 20%, how quickly does that double? Right? Think about that. It's unbelievable, just the lack of knowledge and understanding. Oh, I'll just put it on my credit card. I'll just put it on my credit card. You look at social media, people live in the life and everybody wanting to comply, everybody wanting the new latest and greatest technology, the new latest and greatest fashion trend, the new latest and greatest vehicle. But what are they actually doing for themselves? They're living the social media life. They're living the influencer lifestyle. They are not doing right by themselves, by their family, by their children. And if we can just bridge that gap, get that understanding, get that knowledge out there, one client at a time, my hope is that is the impact, that, more people can set something up for themselves, their family, their offspring, their generations beyond. Not everybody's going to listen. Not everybody's going to learn. But at the end of the day, if we can change one life, I hope that compounds.
Damn. Gentlemen, you both have stellar character, deep meaning to what you do. It does not seem at all like dollars and cents. A lot of people will say we do it to help other people, but then you start asking more questions, and I believe character leaves clues. You guys seems from my end of this call, very much in line with what you've been saying this whole time. Yeah, great values and putting out a significant amount of goodwill. I very much am a part of that group that believes information can change your life. It seems like you guys are out there doing that every day. It's an absolute pleasure to work with you guys, to have you on this show. And thanks for sharing the stories, man. Thanks for sharing all the information and peeling back the layers into who you guys are, not just what you do, because I think that's very important as well.
Well, I definitely appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity to chat and kind of bring about our story. I definitely love the fact that you bring in a little bit of the personal, just not just the business, because like you said, it tells a bigger story of who you're dealing with. And the biggest takeaway that I could say is again, anybody can look good in a situation where they want to make themselves look good. And for us, we are the type of people that we put ourselves into action every day. So if you want to test the waters and see if we are truly who we're saying we are, pick up the phone and I can guarantee that you will feel the same thing.
There it is. Pick up the phone. Actually, before we go, how do people get a hold of you? Almost missed that question, boys.
For us, we chose a domain that is hopefully easy for everybody to remember. And it's easy for a couple reasons. So we've got Rob, we've got Dave. You know how the famous couples, you merge their names. Well,
Yeah.
Rob and Dave rave. We don't go to raves, we're not clubbing, but our clients also rave about us. And we're a team. So rave team, raveteam.ca, Dave at Rave Team or Rob at Rave Team. Easiest way to get us by email. We each have our own individual phone numbers. We have a collective number that goes to both of us on the website. But just even though we are the independent mortgage company, we are an independent mortgage broker, an independent mortgage agent. Remember Rave Team, because that's where you can find us.
So I thought the rave was simply because you had raving fans for clients, but it's actually the R Rob and Dave put together. Oh, you guys are just so smart, eh?
You see what I mean? And it's just, that's the more simple it is, the better it rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, it is, man. The power of simplicities. Well, again, I don't want to take any more of you guys' times. You both are great stand-up individuals. This isn't just a show. I work with you guys. I know what kind of character you guys have revealed that to me. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and I look forward to seeing you both again very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks
Sounds
again,
good.
Jeff. And it's been amazing having the opportunity to work with you guys. You guys are great at what you do, and hope that you guys continue to find and grow success.
Beautiful. Thanks, gentlemen.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com or call 705-413-3775.